Azaria Chantel Lorraine Chamberlain, born on June 11, 1980, in Mount Isa, tragically lost her life at the tender age of 2 months on August 17, 1980, during a family camping excursion to the breathtaking Uluru in the Northern Territory. The circumstances surrounding her demise remain shrouded in mystery, as her body was never recovered. Her parents, Lindy and Michael Chamberlain, reported that a dingo had taken their precious daughter from their tent. Despite their claims, Lindy faced a murder trial and endured over 3 years of imprisonment, while Michael received a suspended sentence. Lindy's release came only after the discovery of Azaria's jacket near a dingo lair prompted new inquests into the case. In a significant turn of events, a coroner officially validated the Chamberlains' account of the tragic incident in 2012, 32 years after Azaria's untimely death. The initial coronial inquest commenced in Alice Springs on December 15, 1980, presided over by Magistrate Dennis Barrett. On February 20, 1981, in a historic moment for Australian legal proceedings, Barrett concluded that a dingo attack was the likely cause of Azaria's disappearance. He further posited that after the attack, her body was removed from the dingo's possession and disposed of by unknown individuals. Dissatisfied with this conclusion, the Northern Territory Police and prosecutors pursued further investigations, leading to a second inquest in Darwin in September 1981. During this inquiry, James Cameron from the London Hospital Medical College presented ultraviolet photographs of Azaria's jumpsuit, suggesting the presence of an incised wound around the neck, indicative of foul play, along with an imprint of a small adult hand. The Chamberlains' vehicle, a yellow Holden Torana, was also confiscated and transported to Alice Springs for examination. These developments culminated in the Chamberlains being charged with the murder of their daughter. In 1995, a third inquest was held, yet it failed to ascertain a definitive cause of death, resulting in an open finding, leaving the case enveloped in uncertainty. The Crown contended that Lindy Chamberlain had brutally taken Azaria's life within the confines of the family vehicle, subsequently concealing the infant's remains within an oversized camera case. Following this tragic act, it was asserted that she rejoined fellow campers gathered around a flickering campfire, casually serving one of her sons a can of baked beans, before retreating to the tent to raise the alarm that a dingo had snatched the baby. It was further alleged that at a later juncture, while others scoured the campsite, she disposed of the body. The pivotal evidence underpinning this accusation was the discovery of a jumpsuit approximately a week after the infant's disappearance, located about 4 kilometers from the tent, stained with blood around the neck. Additionally, a highly disputed forensic report claimed to have identified traces of fetal hemoglobin in stains found on the front seat of the Chamberlains' 1977 Holden Torana hatchback. Fetal hemoglobin is typically present in infants aged 6 months or younger. At the time of her disappearance, Azaria was merely 9 weeks old. Lindy Chamberlain faced scrutiny regarding the attire Azaria had been wearing. She asserted that her daughter was clad in a matinee jacket over the jumpsuit, yet this jacket was absent when the garments were recovered. Furthermore, she was questioned about the singlet, which was found inside the jumpsuit, being turned inside out. Lindy maintained that she never dressed her children in such a manner, emphasizing her meticulousness in this regard. This assertion stood in stark contrast to the condition of the garments when they were collected as evidence, which had been arranged by the investigating officer for photographic documentation. In her defense, eyewitness accounts were presented, indicating that dingoes had been sighted in the vicinity on the evening of August 17, 1980. All witnesses expressed their belief in the Chamberlains' narrative. Notably, one witness, a nurse, reported hearing a baby's cry after the time the prosecution claimed Azaria had been murdered. Evidence was presented indicating that adulting blood also yielded positive results on the test designed for fetal hemoglobin, with other organic substances capable of producing similar outcomes on this specific test, including nasal mucus and chocolate milkshakes, both of which were found in the vehicle where Azaria was purportedly murdered. Engineer Les Harris, who had dedicated over a decade to dingo research, asserted that, contrary to Cameron's conclusions, a dingo's carnassial teeth are indeed capable of slicing through materials as resilient as motor vehicle seat belts. He referenced an instance of a captive female dingo skillfully extracting a bundle of meat from its wrapping while leaving the paper unscathed. The jury ultimately dismissed the defense's arguments. On October 29, 1982, Lindy Chamberlain was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, while Michael Chamberlain was found guilty as an accessory after the fact, receiving an 18-month suspended sentence. An appeal to the federal court in April 1983 proved unsuccessful. The High Court of Australia was later petitioned to overturn the convictions on the basis that the verdicts were unsafe and unsatisfactory. However, in February 1984, the court denied the appeal by a narrow majority. The case reached a pivotal resolution due to an unexpected discovery. In early 1986, British tourist David Brett tragically fell to his death from Uluru during an evening ascent. Given the immense size of the rock and the dense surrounding terrain, it took 8 days for Brett's remains to be located, lying beneath the bluff where he had lost his footing amidst numerous dingo lairs. As police combed the area in search of any missing bones that might have been taken by dingoes, they stumbled upon Azaria's missing matinee jacket. Following this revelation, the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory ordered the immediate release of Lindy Chamberlain, and the case was reopened. On September 15, 1988, the Northern Territory Court of Criminal Appeals unanimously overturned all convictions against both Lindy and Michael Chamberlain. The reliability of the forensic evidence presented during the Chamberlain trial, along with the emphasis placed on it, sparked significant concerns regarding the integrity of such procedures and the role of expert testimony in criminal cases. The prosecution had effectively claimed that crucial hemoglobin tests pointed to the presence of fetal hemoglobin in the Chamberlain's vehicle, which played a major role in their initial conviction. However, it was later revealed that these tests were notoriously unreliable, and similar tests conducted on a sound deadener used in the car's manufacturing produced nearly identical results. 2 years after their exoneration, the Chamberlains received $1.3 million in compensation for their wrongful imprisonment, a figure that covered less than a third of their legal costs. The results of the third coroner's inquest were made public on December 13, 1995, with the coroner concluding that the cause and manner of death remain unknown. In December 2011, Elizabeth Morris, a coroner from the Northern Territory, announced plans for a fourth inquest to take place in February 2012. This inquest was primarily prompted by information from the Chamberlains' legal team regarding dingo attacks that had occurred since Azaria's death, as part of their ongoing campaign for a new investigation to confirm that a dingo had taken Azaria. On June 12, 2012, during this fourth coronial inquest into Azaria Chamberlain's disappearance, Morris determined that a dingo was indeed responsible for her death in 1980. This conclusion was supported by subsequent reports of dingo attacks on humans, resulting in injuries and fatalities. Morris stated, Azaria Chamberlain died at Ayers Rock on August 17, 1980, due to being attacked and taken by a dingo. She also extended her condolences to Azaria's parents and siblings, acknowledging the loss of their beloved daughter and sister, and confirmed that a new death certificate reflecting the cause of death had been issued. The Chamberlain trial garnered significant media attention. In hindsight, much of the evidence used against Lindy Chamberlain was later discredited, making the case a notable example of how media influence and bias can negatively impact judicial proceedings. Public sentiment during the trial was sharply divided, filled with outrageous rumors and distasteful jokes alongside numerous cartoons. Lindy Chamberlain faced particular scrutiny for not conforming to the expected behavior of a grieving mother. The Chamberlain's affiliation with the Seventh-day Adventist Church also drew criticism, with some labeling the church a cult involved in strange rituals, including infant sacrifices. An anonymous tipster claiming to be Azaria's doctor suggested that the name Azaria meant sacrifice in the wilderness, although its true meaning is helped by God. Lindy was subjected to a figurative witch hunt, with some even alleging she was a witch, partly fueled by reports of her dressing her baby in a black outfit, which further fueled negative perceptions. Since the Chamberlain case, discussions about dingo attacks on humans have gained traction, particularly concerning incidents on Kagari, the last stronghold for purebred wild dingoes in Australia. Reports indicate there have been over 400 documented dingo attacks on Kagari, primarily involving children, but also some adults. For instance, in April 1998, a 13-month-old girl was attacked by a dingo and dragged a short distance from her picnic blanket until her father intervened. In July 2004, Frank Cole, a pensioner from Melbourne, claimed he shot a dingo in 1980 and discovered a baby in its mouth. However, after interviewing Cole, police opted not to reopen the investigation. He asserted that he possessed the ribbons from the jacket Azaria was wearing at the time of her disappearance as evidence of his involvement. However, Lindy Chamberlain contended that the jacket had no ribbons attached. Cole's reliability took a hit when it came to light that he had made unfounded claims regarding another case. In August 2005, a 25-year-old woman named Erin Horsberg claimed to be Azaria Chamberlain, but her assertions were dismissed by authorities and the Australian Broadcasting Corporation's Media Watch program, which noted that there was no credible evidence linking Horsberg to the Chamberlain case. Michael Chamberlain passed away from leukemia on January 9, 2017, at the age of 72. The National Museum of Australia houses over 250 items connected to Azaria Chamberlain's disappearance, with Lindy Chamberlain playing a role in their documentation. The collection features courtroom sketches by artists Joe Derbyshire and Veronica O'Leary, camping gear, the Chamberlain family's car, clothing worn by Lindy, the number from her prison door, and the black dress that belonged to Azaria. Additionally, the National Library of Australia holds a small assortment of items related to Azaria, including her birth records, and a manuscript collection comprising around 20,000 documents, which features correspondence from the Chamberlain family and numerous letters from the public. Eventually, Michael Chamberlain sold the actual car to the museum. The tragic case of Azaria Chamberlain has inspired numerous books, films, television shows, and other narratives. John Bryson's book, Evil Angels, was published in 1985 and later adapted into a feature film by Australian director Fred Schapisi in 1988, titled the same, released as A Cry in the Dark outside Australia and New Zealand, featuring Meryl Streep as Lindy Chamberlain and Sam Neill as Michael. This film earned Streep her 8th Academy Award nomination and her first AFI award. In 2002, the opera Lindy, crafted by the talented Moya Henderson, graced the stage of the Sydney Opera House under the auspices of Opera Australia. This poignant narrative was later adapted into a television miniseries titled Through My Eyes in 2004, featuring the esteemed Miranda Otto and Craig McLachlan portraying the Chamberlains. The miniseries drew inspiration from Lindy's memoir of the same name. The tragic demise of Azaria, along with the ensuing search, inquests, trial, and the eventual vindication of the Chamberlains, was meticulously chronicled in the commercial podcast A Perfect Storm, The True Story of the Chamberlains. Additionally, this compelling case found its way into various podcasts, including episode 136 of Case File, the debunking series You're Wrong About, episode 180 of Killer Queens, and International Infamy, hosted by Ashley Flowers. The narrative was further explored in a 2024 episode of The Red Thread. What began as a heart-wrenching tragedy was transformed into a source of dark humor for American television series such as Seinfeld, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and The Simpsons, embedding itself deeply within the fabric of American pop culture, with the infamous phrase, "A dingo's got my baby," becoming a widely recognized punchline, often recalled before one even understood the context. The release of Lindy Chamberlain from incarceration is notably depicted in the third episode of The Newsreader. In the animated classic The Rugrats movie from 1998, a reporter humorously inquires, "Is it true a dingo ate your baby?" Furthermore, Australian puppet comedian Randy Feltface alluded to this incident in his 2021 live performance Purple Privilege, claiming, "I was born on the day Lindy Chamberlain's baby was eaten by a dingo." In 2013, playwright Alana Valentine conceived a production that scrutinized the public's criticism and outrage directed at Lindy Chamberlain in the wake of Azaria's tragic death. This production has endured, with the amateur theater company Milton Follies presenting it a decade later in 2023, featuring Ashley Howes in the role of Lindy. In 1988, a cherished son, brother, and friend, as well as a revered educator and esteemed neighbor, was tragically taken from this world in a brutal act. The investigation was propelled forward by significant forensic evidence, leading authorities to apprehend the individual responsible. Byron Carr, a distinguished 36-year-old English teacher at Montague Regional High School, met a horrific fate in the early hours of November 11th, 1988, when he was strangled with a towel in the sanctuary of his bedroom on Lapthorne Avenue, Charlottetown, Canada. His lifeless body bore multiple stab wounds, leaving a profound impact on the city, his loved ones, and the LGBTQ community. Upon the discovery of his body, a chilling message was inscribed in ink on his wall: "I will slay again." Authorities speculated that Byron had engaged in consensual relations with a young man he had invited into his home, whom they believed to be the perpetrator. Although Byron had kept his sexuality private, it became a focal point following his untimely demise. Chief Brad McConnell characterized this period as a dark and unfortunate chapter in Prince Edward Island's history, compelling individuals like Byron to navigate their lives in secrecy and take unwarranted risks. This case stood as the only cold case in modern Prince Edward Island, remaining unresolved for many years until it was revisited in 2007. Investigators placed their hopes in the advancements of DNA technology, particularly evidence collected from underwear found at Byron's residence. The innovative technique of genetic genealogy was employed to match DNA from the crime scene. Chief McConnell remarked, "By merging advancements in DNA with genetic genealogy efforts, we successfully identified one of the individuals linked to the profiles discovered at the crime scene. This led us to Todd Joseph Gallant, the individual we believe contributed the evidence found with Byron." The police chief elaborated that the process of finding a genetic genealogy match can be an arduous journey. The process entails the meticulous collection of DNA samples from crime scene evidence, the creation of a genetic profile, and the subsequent uploading of that profile via law enforcement channels to genealogy platforms such as Family Tree DNA and GED Match. This intricate procedure may ultimately yield a familial DNA match with other profiles present on these sites. During the investigation, the Charlottetown police received invaluable support from Wyndham Forensics Group and Convergence Investigative Genetic Genealogy. Chief McConnell revealed that Todd Joseph Gallant, also known as Todd Joseph Irving, has a prior criminal history spanning Canada, Texas, and Arkansas. Notably, he was convicted of break and enter in Prince Edward Island in 1987, merely a year before the tragic demise of Byron. According to police reports, Gallant departed the island shortly after 1988, only to return in 2022. The Charlottetown police are collaborating with various law enforcement agencies to trace Gallant's movements over the past 35 years. On January 25, 2024, at approximately 11:55 a.m., the 56-year-old Gallant was apprehended in Souris, Prince Edward Island, facing charges of first-degree murder and interference with human remains. At the time of Byron's horrific murder, Gallant was just 21 years old. A second suspect was also taken into custody that same week, but was subsequently released as investigators sought to ascertain his level of involvement. When questioned about the possibility of the case being a hate crime, Chief McConnell remarked, "That particular answer is one we all want to know." The sensational note left at the crime scene would suggest it was. Byron's family yearns for clarity regarding the motives behind the cruel taking of his life. Was it merely a hate crime, or were there additional elements at play? After 35 long years filled with unanswered questions and uncertainty, Byron's family expressed their sorrow over the prolonged investigation, lamenting that his parents passed away without ever uncovering the truth. John Carr, the brother of Byron, expressed his heartfelt gratitude to the police and the community for their unwavering commitment and diligence in pursuing justice for his brother. In a courtroom on Prince Edward Island, Gallant entered a plea of not guilty to the charge of murdering Byron. The proceedings have faced multiple adjournments, allowing legal representatives to gather necessary disclosures. On July 4, 2024, Gallant's attorney, Chris Money, represented him in court, opting to forego a preliminary hearing, a critical step to assess the sufficiency of evidence for trial. This marks the 8th occasion that Gallant's case has been presented before the court since his arrest in January, with his next court appearance anticipated soon. On December 10, 2024, the remains of Amber Lynn Jenkins Garcia were unearthed nearly 26 years after her tragic end near a serene wooded expanse in Morgan City, Louisiana. In a haunting parallel, another woman's body was discovered around the same time in 1998. While justice was served for the second victim, the identity of Amber's killer eluded authorities for many years until a significant link between the two cases emerged. On October 8, 1998, the Morgan City Police Department was summoned to Young's Road, where a lifeless body had been found behind Young's Park, nestled within the trees. Upon arrival, officers identified the victim as Amber Lynn Jenkins Garcia. The Detectives Division of the Morgan City Police promptly initiated an investigation, concluding that Amber's death was indeed a homicide. Throughout the inquiry, a wealth of evidence was meticulously gathered for analysis by forensic experts. However, as time passed, leads dwindled, leaving investigators at a standstill regarding the identity of Amber's assailant. Later that same year, on December 25, 1998, police were called to Duke Street, where another female victim had been discovered. This victim was identified as Jennifer Vall, whose death was also ruled a homicide. Investigators soon pinpointed John Willis Pittman Jr. as a suspect in Jennifer's case. At just 18 years old at the time of the crime, Pittman was charged and ultimately pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the 16th Judicial Court. He received a sentence of 40 years of hard labor and was subsequently taken into custody by the Louisiana Department of Corrections. Over the years, authorities have revisited Amber's case, seeking fresh leads that might illuminate the circumstances surrounding her untimely demise. At the dawn of 2024, the dedicated investigators in Morgan City achieved a remarkable breakthrough in a murder case that had remained unsolved for a staggering 25 years, and their suspect was closer than they anticipated. The Detectives Division of the Morgan City Police Department revisited evidence gathered from the crime scene involving Amber, submitting it once more to the Acadiana Criminalistics Lab. With the advancements in forensic technology over the years, the analysis revealed a DNA match linking John Willis Pittman Jr. to Amber's tragic case. This newfound evidence breathed new life into the investigation. Consequently, the authorities secured an arrest warrant for Pittman, charging him with second-degree murder for the crime committed a quarter-century ago. Currently serving time at Elaine Hunt Correctional Center for the murder of Jennifer Vaughn, Pittman now faces additional charges related to Amber's demise. He will remain in custody, awaiting the legal proceedings in the 16th Judicial Court. Chief Chad M. Adams, along with the Morgan City Police Department, extends heartfelt commendations to all investigators involved, from those who initially tackled the case to those who revisited it over the years, culminating in the current team that has successfully brought this grievous investigation to a close. Their relentless efforts have not only delivered justice for Amber, but also for the family she left behind, a daughter and a mother. As this chapter concludes, Chief Adams and the investigators have reached out to Amber's family, who express profound relief and gratitude that her case has finally been resolved.